Hey folks, Tim Arview running for United States Senate. Uh, it was requested that I take a political, test to show where I stand on the issues. There is one that's kind of popular called the political compass test. I have taken that before, and I actually don't like it because the questions are worded in a particular way to make it look as though conservatives are racists, sexists, bigots, and liberals aren't. So I don't really like that test because it's not an accurate portrayal. It doesn't actually ask you about the issues. Um, so this test does. So this is the one that I'm going to take. It's from the Pew Research Center, which they're well known for their polls and things, and they're a trusted source. So this is where do you fit in the political typology? So we'll go ahead and start quiz. So if you had to choose, would you rather have a smaller government providing fewer services or a bigger government providing more services? Smaller government is always better because the less the government is involved in something, the better people are. Which of the following statements comes closest to your view? Oh, statements come closest to your view. America's openness to people from all over the world is essential to who we are as a nation. Or if America is too open to people from all over the world, we risk losing our identity as a nation. See, I like the way that's worded because it's not saying that we're against immigration, but that if we have too much openness to other nations, we lose our identity, and that is true. In general, would you say experts who study a subject for many years are usually better at making good policy decisions about that subject than other people? Usually worse at making good policy decisions about that subject than other people? Or neither better nor worse at making good policy decisions about that subject than other people? Now, I do feel like that this question is leaning toward the quote unquote trust the science movement, but as a general rule, people usually are better at making good policy decisions if they are experts who have studied the subject for many years. The problem with the whole vaccine mandates and things like that is there are experts who disagree with people like Anthony Fauci. And these are also experts, and they have also studied the subject for many years. So to say trust the science, well, the science would say that we need to consider all options and not just go with the one that is endorsed by a particular political candidate. Thinking about increased trade of goods and services between the U.S. and other nations in recent decades, would you say that the U.S. has gained more than it has lost because increased trade has helped lower prices and increase the competitiveness of some U.S. businesses, or lost more than it has gained because increased trade has cost jobs in manufacturing and other industries and lowered wages for some U.S. workers? Definitely the second option. And another side effect is that we're actually losing taxes. We're losing income in other sources besides just lost jobs. So yeah, we have actually lost more than we've gained. And I mean, we have trade deficits with other countries. It's a fact. It's documented. How much more, if anything, needs to be done to ensure equal rights for all Americans, regardless of their racial or ethnic backgrounds? Now, I actually think that we do need to do more for equal rights for all Americans, regardless of their racial or ethnic backgrounds. And we do that by eliminating the government being involved. Now, I don't think that that's what this question means. So for this question, I will say nothing at all because I feel like that they are, it's hard to find any kind of quiz like this that isn't leaning in one way or another. Um, because this implies that not enough is being done. But I feel like that there are things being done and it's the wrong things. So In that case, nothing at all. I would rather we not get involved at all, if that's how it's going to be. Which of the following statements comes closest to your view? Business business corporations make too much profit. Most corporations make a fair and reasonable amount of profit. I mean, that depends on the guy who owns the business. What does he think? I am not qualified to tell another business owner whether or not he makes enough or too much profit. Uh, so I'm going to say a fair and reasonable amount of profit, I guess. Such a silly question. How much, if at all, would it bother you to regularly hear people speak a language other than English in public places in your community? I guess I'll say not much. I'm glad they have four options here at least. So you don't just say, yes, it bothers me or no, it doesn't bother me. Because I do feel like that they should learn English. If I was going to visit France, I would want to learn French. But at the same time, I guess I couldn't be expected to be an expert in French immediately, and I'm probably going to speak some English and try to communicate as well as I can. But if I plan on living there, my goal is to, eventually learn to speak the language and not, just speak English. But when you're in a situation where you're still learning, well, you can't be expected to just speak fluent English if that's not your first language. So I'll go with not much. On a scale of 0 to 100, where 0 means you feel as cold and negative as possible, and 100 means you feel as warm and positive as possible, how do you feel toward, how do you feel toward? That's redundant. Okay. How do you feel toward Democrats? Okay, so are you talking about the politicians or are you talking about the voters? The politicians, I would definitely be a 0. The voters, I understand that there are a lot of older Democrats out there who still feel like the Democrat Party supports, economically disadvantaged people. The thing is, they've come out recently to explain what they mean by that, and they don't mean white people. Um, they've determined that people of color are more economically disadvantaged and all white people are not economically disadvantaged, and that's just not true. Economic disadvantage runs the gamut on races, but um, I will put 40, because like I said, for the voters, I don't hold any anger toward voters, but the politicians are making politics out of things that shouldn't be. So definitely don't support abortion or any of their policies at all. How do you feel toward Republicans? This would be um, kind of the same, honestly, but on the other end of the scale. Republican politicians, some of them can be, not the best. My thing is integrity. So if you don't have integrity, I don't like you. I don't care whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. Republican voters, I love Republican voters because I feel like they get it. They understand where we are in our country and what's going on. Of course, I mean, there's extremists no matter what group you're going to go with, that you would say, well, no, I don't support them. I don't agree with them. So on that end, I'll say, no, we'll get 90. Yeah, we'll go with 90 for Republicans. All right. Which of these statements best describes your opinion about the United States? The U.S. stands above all other countries in the world. I don't even have to read the rest of them. This is the greatest nation in the world just because we allow people like me to run for United States Senate. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about this country. We're a wonderful country. In 2016, an outsider won the presidential election. He ran under a Republican, but he could have run under independent. He was basically independent and got elected. So that's awesome. It's one of the greatest countries in the world, along with some others. Well, I mean, there are other great countries. There are other countries that are better than the U.S. No, I don't agree with that at all. Um, I mean, right now, as far as politicians go, our current president administration, for instance, is definitely not the best. But as a nation, as you know, our founding documents, the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, things like that, they say that we are the greatest nation in the world. How much of a problem, if any, would you say each of the following are in the country today? People being too easily offended by things others say. It is a major problem. Stop being offended. Oh my gosh, please stop being offended. Yeah, some of you need a time machine back to the 80s and the 70s when people said what they thought and no one got offended by it, and it didn't matter what your skin color was. Richard Pryor said what he thought about white people and nobody got offended. We laughed at it. Holy cow, people get so mad. People saying things that are very offensive to others. Not a problem. I mean, I don't like what a lot of people say. I don't like people when people take the Lord's name in vain. I don't like the F word. There's a lot of things that I would say I don't like that if somebody says that, but I'm not saying it, and I don't want it said in my house now. If you're in my house and you say something like that, I might ask you to leave. But that's not really, it's not being offended, and I don't think there should be a law regarding that. I mean, if there is, then that's the first things we need to outlaw is taking the Lord's name in vain. Let's start there. Um, okay, which comes closer to your view of candidates for political office, even if neither is exactly right? I like that. I usually feel like there's at least one candidate who shares most of my views. None of the candidates represent my views well. No, I feel like there's at least one that represents most of my views. In general, how much do white people benefit from advantages in society that black people do not have? Let's just ignore all the other races and let's just make this literally black and white. Um, okay, so how much do white people benefit from advantages in society that black people do not have? Man, such a loaded question. How do we define white people? How do we define black people? Um, I would say not too much because I feel like as a society, as a whole, we are pretty colorblind, and that's a good thing. So there's no advantage or disadvantage there. Do you think greater social acceptance of people who are transgender, people who identify as gender that is different from the sex they were assigned at birth? I love how we're assigned. You were born that way. It's genetic. You weren't assigned it. Was I assigned black hair and brown eyes? That's anyway. Do you think greater social acceptance of people who are transgender is, actually I think is very bad for society. I don't know why I said it like that. Like so many people would be surprised by that answer. Even my opponents would not be surprised by that answer, I guess. But I just want to, here's why, because these are people with mental health issues, and we're completely ignoring that, and we're pretending like it's normal, and that we just need to accept this mentally ill person as a normal person and not try to get them help and not try to do anything for them. And suicide rates among transgenders are so high, and people blame it on because they're being bullied, but the fact is they're mentally ill and they need help. And that's why it's bad for society to quote unquote accept them. I don't even know what that means, but I assume it means to not try to change that situation. Um, and sadly, this idea of mental health has become a stigma, so that if someone needs mental health care, we want to, instead of just getting them the care and addressing the stigma and fighting the stigma and saying these people aren't lesser people because they need mental health care, but instead we're saying let's pretend like they don't have a mental health issue and just accept them as normal people in society. So the stigma of mental health is still there. We just have, changed how we view the people so that they don't have that stigma attached to them. And that's a problem. We need to remove the stigma from mental health care. Overall, would you say people who are convicted of crimes in this country are serve, not are, serve too much time in prison, too little time in prison, about the right amount of time in prison? Depends on the crimes. Some crimes they're probably in there too long. Some crimes they're in there not long enough. I do feel like that a lot of times we we have certain crimes that even once the person has served their time and they get out, people still treat them as though they're in, incarcerated, and that they're outside of society. And so in that case, it's like, well, if you feel like they still need to be incarcerated, then we need to increase the time that they spend in prison. But if they're, if you feel like they've served their time, then they get it should be a clean slate at that point. So I'm just going to say about the right amount of time in prison, because some are going to be too much and some are going to be too little. So I guess it averages out. Which of the following statements comes closest to your view? Religion should be kept separate from government policies. Government policies should support religious values and beliefs. Okay, so this question is so loaded, and I'm so disappointed there are only two options here because I don't think either one of these things are true. I don't think government policies should support religious values and beliefs, but I do think that religious values and beliefs should support government policies. What I mean is, if if I'm elected, I'm a Christian. And so my Christian values, my Christian views are definitely going to affect my decisions as a government official. When a bill comes up, for instance, about abortion, my views as a Christian, my beliefs as a Christian are going to affect my vote. How could they not? Someone's lack of Christian views is going to affect their vote. How could it not? That's our values and beliefs that we grow up with. That's what colors our our values, our systems of public policy and government policy. That's why murder is wrong. It's illegal because it's wrong, and it's wrong because we as a society have morally decided it's wrong, regardless of religious belief. All religious beliefs kind of believe that murder is wrong, and so therefore it's illegal. It's not illegal for any other reason but some moral or religious belief. There's no practical reason to say murder is illegal. I know that can be argued. I get that. But the fact is, that's not how we've decided this. And so, of course, our religious beliefs are going to affect government policy, but government policy should not be there to, I should not make a law or introduce a bill for a law to make Christianity the religion of the United States. That would be wrong to do that. I Our country isn't made that way. Personally, I would not have an issue with it because I'm a Christian, so that would favor me, that would benefit me. But I'm not going to do that. Uh, so I don't like either one of these answers. So I'm going to go with. I guess I'll go with government policy. You know what? Can I skip this? I'll just not answer. Can I not answer? Yeah, cool. Okay. I'm not answering that one. Okay. In the future, do you think U.S. policies should try to keep it so America is the only military superpower, or it would be acceptable if another country became as militarily powerful as the U.S.? Well, we should definitely try to stay as strong as we can as a military superpower, so other countries like China don't destroy us. That's a good thing. All right, so let's see where we land. Submit. All right, so your best fit is committed conservatives. Okay, along with 7% of the public, really? 7% of the public are committed conservatives. Hmm. Okay, so a share, let's see, share of committed conservatives saying the same as you. Oh, okay. So 81% for, oh, it's showing in each of the questions. I'll just scroll through them slowly. I won't talk about any of them, but you guys can pause the video and see where I stand on these things. Um, and I guess the gray is, yeah, share of general population saying the same as you. So 48%, 32%, 15%. Yeah, I can see that one. 56. So this is interesting. Foreign policy. The U.S. has lost more than it has gained from increased trade. 27% of committed conservatives say the same as me. 56% of the general population say the same as me. So most people agree with me, but not all of them are committed conservatives. Only about half. Interesting. U.S. stands above all other countries in the world. It's sad that more people don't feel like that. I wish they did. That's sad. Okay, so yeah, rated Democrats 40, committed conservatives on average rated Democrats 19. Yeah, politicians, like I said, it'd be zero. The general public on average rated Democrats 46. Okay, so I'm going with the general population on that. Rated Republicans 90. Committed conservatives rated Republicans 72. I can see that. There's been some disappointing Republicans out there. General population on average rated Republicans 42. So basically, the general public rates Republicans and Democrats pretty much the same. Um, okay, I usually feel like there's at least one candidate. 60% of people do. And this isn't party. They're just saying candidate. So 60% of people feel like there's at least one candidate that shares their views, but that means 40% feel completely left out. That's sad. uh, yeah. So anyway, that was uh, that was very interesting. So let's read this. Staunchly conservative and overwhelmingly Republican, committed conservatives hold pro-business views traditionally associated with the Republican Party. Yep. Have favorable attitudes about international trade. That's where I I don't know. There's questions there. And favor limited government. Yep. Their approach to international relations centers on engaging with U.S. allies and maintaining American military might. Committed conservatives tend to hold more moderate positions on immigration than faith and family conservatives and populist right. I actually thought I would get like a faith and family conservative, but I didn't. They also are slightly more moderate than these groups on some issues related to racial and ethnic equality. While they largely supported Donald Trump in 2020, they are less likely than faith and family conservatives and populist right to favor a major role for Trump in their party's future. See, I didn't. What questions did I answer that made them feel that way? That I didn't feel strongly about Trump, because I do. Let's look at what faith and flag conservatives. Wait, it said faith and family conservatives. Huh, they must have changed the name. Faith and flag conservatives are highly religious, politically engaged, and intensely conservative when it comes to both social and economic issues. They favor a robust role for Christianity in public life and a smaller role for government and society. It's probably because I skipped that question. They figure Christians would say, no, what would they? Oh, they'd say that public policy should affect religion, or should, yeah, support religious beliefs. But see, here's the thing. What if it's a Muslim Christian, Muslim belief instead of a Christian belief? Then we'd say, no, we don't think it should. So that's why I'm saying it shouldn't at all. It shouldn't be involved. And they hold that a strong American military is essential in international affairs. I do too. I think we're good where we are though. Faith and flag conservatives are more likely to say that there is a lot of discrimination against white people in our society today than they are to say the same of discrimination against black people. Okay, it was that question. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. They overwhelmingly identify with the Republican Party and remain strong supporters of former President Donald Trump. So I would say they probably barely put me in the committed conservatives um, versus the faith and flag conservatives. That's because while these things now see support working with U.S. allies, I do, but I wasn't really that supportive of foreign involvement. I don't know. I don't know where they came up with it, but there it is. There it is for you. I'm a committed conservative, but again, I would say I probably barely, barely went to committed conservative um, versus the faith and flag conservative. So that's where I stand on those issues. Hope that was entertaining to everyone and maybe explained a little about where I stand. If you have any questions about some of my answers or you have any other questions that weren't on this quiz, let me know. And if you have any other quizzes you'd like me to take, let me know that as well. I'll be happy to. So until next time, God bless. Love you all.